Most notably, it's very clear that under the guise of this being Russian information, the FBI pressured the tech companies to censor it, and to censor it very quickly so that nobody had a chance to see it at all.
Who would have thought that a South African who builds electric cars and rocket ships could have so effectively shaken the system up? Elon Musk, the new owner of Twitter, has rearranged the political furniture by releasing insider information about just how closely Twitter was working with the FBI to bury the Hunter Biden story in the last weeks of the 2020 election. The story, of course, goes much further than Hunter Biden, opening up a new line of questions about whether the FBI was actually interfering with the election on Biden's behalf, and whether Hunter Biden, his father Joe, and Biden's brother were all involved in influence peddling with foreign governments. Well, we have two guests who can add to this news tonight. Eric Eggers from the Government Accountability Institute, who will join us in a moment. But first, Janine Yonas from the new Civil Liberties Alliance is here. Janine, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Janine, what amazes me, first off, is the lack of mainstream media coverage on this story. You would think Republicans certainly want to know about, but Democrats should want to know about this too. Are you amazed that everyone seems to be refusing to cover this story?
I am a little bit surprised, although I hope some of the information that's coming out today as a result of our deposition of Elvis Chan last week might change that a little bit.
Why don't you tell us about that, Janine?
So we deposed Elvis Chan in a case in which we're representing several plaintiffs who alleged that they were censored on social media for their views about COVID, so a little bit different. And they're arguing that it was at the federal government's behest. The tech companies were being pressured. But part of the lawsuit is alleging that the Hunter Biden laptop story was also likewise suppressed at the behest of the government, especially the FBI. So we deposed Chan last week, and there were some very interesting things from that interview. Most notably, it's very clear that under the guise of this being Russian information, the FBI pressured the tech companies to censor it, and to censor it very quickly so that nobody had a chance to see it at all.
Well, it certainly seems to me that it's been absolutely proven that the contents of the Hunter Biden laptop are true. Hunter Biden himself doesn't even really dispute any of that. Then you get into the aspect that if you believe it's true, or even the assumption that it could be true, you've got Joe Biden, the 10% for the big guy. You've got Hunter Biden working deals with the Chinese spy chief, Russian and Ukrainian oligarchs, and yet the judicial system, specifically the FBI, runs cover for Joe Biden. That, to me, says that is the Justice Department weaponized by the Biden administration?
That's very interesting. And of course, this happened under Trump. So it is a little bit strange. It looks as though they were basically acting as an arm of the DNC or the Biden campaign in order to get the story suppressed because it looked very bad for Biden. But I think it should concern all Americans, regardless of their political stripes, that we have the government censoring, suppressing crucial information that Americans deserve to know. That is a First Amendment violation.
The media not reporting on certain things is just as bad as false reporting on things by omitting it. That's a First Amendment issue, too, isn't it, Janine?
Well, right. And it's not just the media not reporting on things. It's the fact that when the media was reporting on things, it was censored. So this story was actually broke by the New York Post in, I believe, October 4th, 2020. But because of the FBI's attempt to convince the tech companies that it was hacked materials, so the FBI had first convinced the tech companies to change their terms of service to censor hacked materials, so-called hacked materials that appeared to be Russian disinformation. So then the FBI essentially went in and told them that this was hacked materials, warned them that this dump was coming. There's some actually conflicting evidence as to whether they specifically said the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation, or whether they just said there was a big story coming that was Russian disinformation. But regardless, the fact that the FBI got the tech companies to censor the New York Post and any other story reporting on this matter is a grave constitutional concern.
Yeah, it sure is. And when you look at the FBI and the media basically working in conjunction, add in these big tech companies, stories were censored. We know that they were. This New York Post story, as you mentioned, was censored. Thank God for Elon Musk, because though I knew all of this was going to come out, the confirmation is really helpful on this, isn't it, Janine? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, it is. It is good to have this. And actually, one of the really interesting things that's coming out with this deposition is that it's showing, we're learning a little bit about who's lying and who's telling the truth, because some of what Chan said is actually conflicting with some of the stuff that we're getting from Musk. So that should be good material for this lawsuit down the road.
Well, it's important work that you're doing there. We so are appreciative of you exposing a lot of this stuff and the First Amendment implications that really affects everybody from both sides of the aisle. Janine Jonas, we appreciate you coming on. We'll get you back on here real soon. Thank you. Well, now we turn to Eric Eggers with the Government Accountability Institute. As the name suggests, they specialize in waste, fraud, and abuse inside government. Eric, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Grant. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so look, we're talking about this whole Twitter story, the release of these documents. Thank God for Elon Musk when it comes to spreading some light on all of this.
Yeah, you'd like to say that he shed light on it, but really all he did was confirm what people like you and most of America that's been paying attention already knew. We knew the Hunter Biden laptop was real, and it ultimately took a couple years, and mainstream media finally came around because, hey, there's probably going to be some investigations into this. But no, the Hunter Biden laptop was real. The Twitter effort to cover it up with collusion from the Biden campaign was also real. So yes, it's nice to have some confirmation of it, but unfortunately, it's far too little and far too late. I think more importantly, now that we know that it's real, it's time to ask some very hard questions about Joe Biden himself and, what ramifications or repercussions should Twitter face. If you were to put a monetary value on the impact that had on the Biden campaign, it would dramatically exceed FEC campaign donation contribution limits, right? So I think, Twitter's gotten away with it. The Bidens got away with it. We now have a President Biden instead of a disgraced candidate Biden. And all we have are just documents to kind of hold up and say, see, we knew it all along. It's actually a little sad.
Well, Eric, by covering this story up with Twitter and the other social media outlets, the public never got a chance to really vet Joe Biden. Now my biggest fear is that we've got a national security risk inside the White House, a man who's compromised by China. Your thoughts on that? Because all the evidence certainly suggests that he certainly could be.
Well, not only does the evidence suggest that he could be, but if you listen to China, they're overt, as the left likes to say, China says the quiet part out loud. China says that their strategy for bolstering their own defense and security mechanisms are something called elite capture, by which they gain leverage, whether it's financial or other types of pictures or other types of information, sensitive information, on American elites, and then they leverage that to get them to do the bidding of China. And so they're very overt about that. And then it's like, well, who's one of China's business partners? Oh, the son of the president. He had an unprecedented financial arrangement in which his company made $1.5 billion with the Chinese government. And we also know that Joe Biden has other relatives that have been in on that business. I think they've done something to the tune of $30 million worth of business with people tied to the Chinese military. So it's not hard to find connections between the Biden family and the Chinese government. So I think the questions you're raising are very troubling and legitimate as the questions we would raise about the relationship between the Biden administration and any of the social media empire that helped put him into office.
Look, the voicemails from Hunter Biden, the emails, him being just shocked that he's in business with the Chinese spy chief, this billionaire that ended up disappearing, clearly a concern to anybody. So what I think is maybe the most frightening out of all of this is I get that the Justice Department and the FBI are going to cover for the Bidens, they covered for the Clintons, they cover for everybody. But what's most frightening is the FBI, by doing this, covers for China, so does Twitter here.
No, that's a great point. And it's not like China doesn't have things they need to be covered for. What happened to the whole origins of COVID? Like, it's kind of insane that we haven't conducted serious investigations to figure out where the disease that launched a pandemic that disrupted American lives, it's ruined relationships with families all over the world. It's set the United States education system back 2 decades. If you look at the learning gains and the latest test results that have come out, I mean, COVID has upended Western society. And so I think it's fair to ask questions of where did it come from? What role did any Chinese labs have to play in that? And that's actually one of the questions we don't appear to be overly interested in asking. And one of the reasons why we're not asking it is up until recently, social media entities, including with assistance from the Biden administration, help censor those questions. So you're absolutely right. We should ask questions about what did we know and when did we know it in terms of lab leak theories. What did we know and what did we know about the effectiveness of masks? We've seen Anthony Fauci now suddenly have a case of amnesia as it relates to, well, you know, are masks helpful? I'm not sure. What are masks? Yeah. Who am I? So these are all great questions we should ask, and unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get a lot of help from social media when it comes to asking them or the Biden administration.
Yeah, you know, a good friend of mine said Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter, whether it's coming to COVID or the Hunter Biden scandal or who knows what else, is about the most consequential purchase since America and the Louisiana purchase, and he just may be right on that. Eric Akers, it's great having you on the program. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Doug McKelway, and thank you for watching Centerpoint. We hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Leave a comment below and keep the conversation going by sharing this video with a friend who needs to see it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.